All right. We're here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for the inaugural show, the podcast for FWA Supply Podcast, episode number 1. And I am super excited to have Sasha here. If you don't know Sasha, you need to know this guy. Just love talking to him every single time I have a conversation with it. It ends up turning into a 2-hour conversation about everything but fence. It feels like half the time. So anyway, without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce you to Sasha from Lion Fencing and Steel Fencing Supplies. I don't know, it's got like 6 names attached to it, but it's definitely a company you need to get to know. So I'm going to bring Sasha in. Sasha.
How are you doing? Good to finally get in front of you, right?
I'm excited. Hey, and I know if anybody didn't get to see Sasha at the Fence Show and Security Expo, you would have saw them when you walked in. He would have been the guy with the standing in front of the keg.
You would have had the good old Southern accent, deep South.
So how was that? How was the show for you?
Oh, the show was really good for us. The turnout was good. Actually, the information, getting to meet contractors that actually really wanted to know more information. That was really refreshing. We've been doing these shows, and I've been part of these shows for many years. Yep. So it was really refreshing to get the people that we got that came to our booth. They're actually interested in meeting and connecting with suppliers, which is a bit of a shock, right? Because as a fencing company, surely you've got suppliers, right? You've got people you can go to get fence, right? Yep. It was a little bit surprising how many people don't have access to fence and they're fencing contractors. So, the show was really good. It opened us up, Lion especially, to some really good fencing contractors, and we got to meet some really good vendors too that are out there with the same philosophy.
Yeah, great. Well, I think what was unique too was the fact that, and maybe the reason you did talk to some that didn't know that there was a lot of suppliers like yourselves and other ones out there was these were your average size fence companies. So a lot of these companies, they're 1, 3 to 5 trucks, and they go out and work every day in the field with the crews. So there's not as much time as some of us have to go around to all the shows and have dinner and lunch and golf and hang out. So I think for them, it was just exciting for them to go and talk to people like yourself at the show and realize that there's a lot of resources out there for them. But I didn't bring you on here to talk about the fence show. I could go on about that for 3-4 days. I'm still jazzed about that. I can't wait to the next one. I do have some questions I want to ask you because obviously this is a podcast for FWA Supply Group, and what we're trying to bring to the industry and how we're trying to connect the suppliers and the manufacturers to the fence companies. So one question, I'm going to ask everybody a lot of the same questions, that I bring onto these podcasts, because I think it's stuff that we all need to know. What do you, as I know you're a manufacturer and a supplier, you're kind of a hybrid model. I think it's that's kind of sweeping through the nation here. So what do you think that you, and internally in your office, what do you consider an average size fence company?
Well, so that is a real loaded question, Brian. Thanks for putting me on the spot for your first show. I appreciate it. No, but all jokes aside, I think that's where we're sort of lost in fencing. Our definition of average, I don't think we understand what average is. Yeah. We tend to think that average is, 5, 10, I don't know. It's the number to me is a little bit, or maybe 3 to 5. As far as I'm concerned, that's not average. I think that when you define average, I think the industry as a whole has sort of forgotten that traditional fencing companies, probably 1 truck, 1 to 2, in that lower, maybe, like hundreds of thousands to, maybe 500,000, maybe $1 million. I think when you look at all of the fencing contractors, that's what you're going to find is average. That's going to be the majority of the thousands and thousands of fencing contractors that are out there, is my opinion anyway, Yeah.
And I don't believe it's just obviously fence, it's fence and gate contractors. I know we our industries have tried to separate that out a little bit, but it's amazing how much we cross over. So I think that also fits the gate contractors as well. The ones that are actually doing gates and even some of the automation controls. So I think I agree. I agree with that a lot, that there's not as many, $10-15 million annually fence companies as there are doing, 100,000 to 500,000 and so on, even less for some of them. So I'm glad to hear that you are in touch with what a average fence company is. How do you feel? I mean, you've been obviously Give me a little bit about your background. I know you go way back a lot further than just working for Lion Fencing and Steel Supplies. What's your background?
So going a little bit further, so in Australia, as you can tell, Max, and I'll get it out there. G'day, mate. Crikey. Yeah. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Right. We're done.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But so I started off in fencing, probably now going on around 15 years, something like that. And I started as an ops manager for a fencing installation company. So that's sort of where it all began for me, and then into the GM role. And then 2016, we moved my family back to America, and I got involved on the supply end. So that was a really unique perspective, coming from the install side into the supply side, and also coming from a country that tends to do business a little bit different. It was an eye-opener to come here just to see how these big guys have really taken control of the fencing industry and made it harder for fencing people, guys, women, ladies, whoever, to sort of navigate through the supply side. So I was working for a very large, probably, number 1 or 2, 3 in the country on the supply side. And from there, that's where I sort of got to see how our industry in America works, just where it's sort of gone, even though that's not where we began. When we talk to some of these older fencing companies, and they remind you about the good old days, right? And the inverted commas, good old days. Everything was done on a handshake, done on a napkin. And then we go fast forward to today, where we're controlled, or the industry itself seems to be controlled more by larger organizations on the supply side anyway. And that's sort of where Lion got trapped. We got trapped in an exclusivity deal with a larger supplier. And of course, they broke the contract, leaving us holding the baby, so to speak. And it really pushed us into thinking, hey, what are we actually about? Like, what is Lion Fencing and Steel Supply about? It's about fencing contractors and fencing industry. And our job, how I get paid and how we grow, is by supplying fencing people. And I think that's sort of a big eye-opener for me over the last 2 years, leaving a bigger company that sort of dictated who we're going to sell to, who we're not going to sell to, how we're going to sell. And it was just, no, that's not right in my books. And I think I know the founder, Matt Seabright, feels the same. Both of us actually, because we were lucky enough to be fence installers, then suppliers, we got to see both sides of the fence, no pun intended. Like, this industry is about fencing people, not suppliers. The suppliers benefit from fencing contractors, fencing people installing fence, but it's not the other way around. I think that's where we've come out of. And then the games, and just seeing how we've allowed some of these bigger guys to really dictate our industry. It's just why Lion sort of formed and went out and said, hey guys, we're selling fencing people. End of story. We're not asking, we don't even talk about average. When you mention average, it's a real tough one, because I have to stop and think, what's an average fencing company? And then I get trapped in what's average? 5 trucks? No, it's not average. So that's a bit about our history. It's been an eye-opener. And like I said, for Lion, it was, hey, we're here, and we're here to support the fencing contractors and fencing industry. And we're here to sell, and we're here to sell fence. And we're not here to sort of play games and, talk bad and go behind everyone's backs and all these other nonsense games. At the end of the day, we don't have a business without supporting the fencing industry. End of story. It's that simple. Yeah.
I agree. Well, I feel like you answered like 3 of my next questions all at once. So, I mean, I appreciate that. It's like you're kind of talking to yourself on this one, which is nice. But nonetheless, I do agree with a lot of that. I mean, I don't have as much background into the suppliers and stuff as you do. I mean, I've obviously had my own fence companies for decades, so I've been fortunate enough to be able to buy from everybody, and I haven't had. A lot of the feedback I get from the members and stuff from FWA and being that we are such a large organization now and we're 80% fence companies and gate companies, we probably get a lot more feedback from your average fence companies than a lot. And I did hear there was a lot of struggles out there with them getting supplies. So you kind of touched on it, but how do you feel access to materials is for the average fence companies in our industry right now?
Oh, mate, this one I could talk about for hours, the frustration. And I mean, you've talked about it. Yeah, look, I think, to be honest, if we're going to call, just being brutally honest, which I think this podcast, that's what we're about,
Yep.
is not to disrupt the market. It's just, hey, this is the truth. If you're an average fencing company, which I think we've discussed in the beginning, what we just describe as average, you're going to struggle to purchase material at a good service, 2, at a good price, and just made to feel like, hey, I'm not a fencing guy, you know what I mean? Or like, I don't even belong in this industry. So to answer you, I think it's easier for the bigger guys. It's also easier for people like yourself, Brian, that have no problems going around and pushing yourself into the industry. Because a lot of the average fencing, you hit on the head, they're quoting, they're running their crews, they're going to site to install. I mean, they don't have the luxury of, spending hours and hours and trying to, hey, where can I source this? Where can I source that? Oh, this guy won't deal with me and this company won't deal with me. I'll go to Lowe's or I'll go to Home Depot. And in no disrespect to any of that, that's not what the industry was set up for. So if that answers you, I think it's hard. That's just my honest opinion. It's harder than it should be for average fencing guys.
Yeah, and the feedback I'm getting from the members and the fence companies that we do talk to is it's the same, and that's the reason FWA Supply Group was born. Not necessarily to flip materials ourselves, but to connect them with the industry and some of the people, and not to tell people, hey, don't buy from who you're buying from, or buy directly from manufacturers, or buy only from distributors, or don't buy from distributors. None of this is to tell people where to buy from. None. It's just none of that we're trying to get through. We're just trying to give people options and show them what's out there. And you did answer that question pretty good. And I'm maybe asking, like, again, everybody I bring on, I'm maybe asking a lot of the similar questions too, and trying to see what the feel is for everybody, how they feel the industry is going. Do you think, kind of sidestepping off of that one, do you think that larger companies have a major advantage or a minor advantage over smaller companies? I hate to say smaller. I know I'm trying to get rid of that, but average companies, do you think the larger companies have a big enough advantage over them when it comes to purchasing materials that it would probably sway whether they would get the projects or not, or cost them possibly a project they're bidding because the price difference is so dramatic between what they're paying and what a large company is paying for materials, right now as the market stands?
Oh, 100%. I think that the big discrepancy is just that gap, right? Look, the bigger guys, they purchase more, so therefore they're going to get better pricing. Like, that's just the way it is, and it makes sense, right? But it's this big gap, Brian, between what the price is and what the average fencing guy and team and company is paying for that same product. There's a big disparity in it, I believe, anyway. And mine's living proof that there is, because we haven't come to the market to destroy it. It's not. We've never said that to anyone. We're here to service the fencing industry, and we need to make money. We all have families that we all need to feed. So we don't need the big disparity between, again, and you said it, what do you call it? Like average versus, I don't know, because we shouldn't put labels on things at all. Perfect example is I've had a few customers, probably now 4 or 5 in under the last 6 weeks, that have come in with one truck, and been able to work with them. Their price was fair, and they've been able to win jobs. And in return, they've been able to win more and more jobs with their products. And it's not disrupting the big guys from winning. Like, it's not disrupting the industry at all because, dude, there's just so much work out there. But I really feel that there's a big gap. There's a decent gap between, the advantages that big guys get. And I understand, Brian, that the bigger companies have better purchasing power, and so they should, right?
Yep.
To a point. I understand that. And they do when they work with Lion. But the average, and I know I hate this word, we both hate it, but the average fencing company will get their own advantage by working with Lion because they should. They shouldn't be paying hundreds of dollars or more for the same product. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. So you do think there's which is the question I was trying to get at. You think that the gap is so big that if they were out there bidding a project that they probably wouldn't get it to a larger company, and not just because they didn't have the service or the ability to do the job, because the materials were that big a part of, that far apart in the pricing they're getting. I don't know how the pricing structure works on some of that, but I mean, it's just I'm just trying to get get some of the feedback on that from people.
Yeah, so from the supply side, I definitely believe that's an issue. Look, I blame suppliers for a lot of issues too. Like, so it's not just the price difference; it's also the way we service people. Once you put labels on something, Brian, you put a label on it. You put it in that box and you've labeled it. Right. You're digging a hole and you need a post. Yeah. You're a fencing person, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. I'm not here to destroy the industry at all. Lion is not here to destroy the industry. It's here to serve. Right. So, there's going to be different price structures, right? That's just normal. You're buying 2 posts versus 500. Right. That's just natural. Right. But it doesn't mean that the average fencing person that's trying to bid a job with 200 posts can't get a competitive price. Right. So I think that's what we've seen over the last, I want to say, decade in supply, a shift that we put people in a box, we brand them, and unfortunately that's not right in Lion's books. Yeah.
And I see some of that changing now. I've seen stuff open up a little bit, even in the last year or so. So that's a positive, positive note to take from it all. But I do agree in a way, that there's a large gap, I think, and from what I'm getting feedback from people. I don't experience it myself, probably because I get a little bit better pricing because of my purchasing power. And there should always be an advantage over somebody that did work themselves up to the point where they buy truckloads opposed to a pallet. But it would be nice to see it kind of level up a little bit, so at least that guy has a shot at still bidding projects. And I think that's what you'll see FWA Supply Group's going to try to do. But on that note, also, I think that there has been, we hear a lot from people is, hey, that's a bad company because they sell to this guy or they sell to that guy. And in fact, you'll get, suppliers and manufacturers will get called up and say, hey, I don't want you selling to that guy because that's my customer. So I'd like to see that's my customer mentality taken out of, taken away from it a little bit. Do you think that there's a stigma around manufacturers selling to fence companies, and you think that somebody actually says, hey, that's a bad company because of who they're selling to? Or is that, because you don't experience that in other countries. You go to Brazil, walk into a factory and try to tell the owners who they can and can't sell their materials to and see if you make it out. So, but this country is a little different. So, but is it just something we've gotten used to, or is it, is it even real? Is that, from what people are telling me, is that even happening, that people are getting frowned upon for who they sell to?
Oh, I believe so. Like I said, 100%, yes. Like, as much as I don't want to say from a supply side, yes. And we'll go back just so that everybody understands. This is not about the big guys not getting the best price at all. It's not what we believe. Because, like yourself, you've earned the right through growth to, get better pricing, which is fair. Right. But everybody deserves the opportunity to grow, right? The one thing I love about this country, being a foreigner into this country, is it's an amazing country for business, right? And if we're stifling people from starting something, or telling them they have to go over here, or telling them, no, you have to pay this much, where somebody else is paying 50% less,
Yeah.
60%, that doesn't make sense because there's plenty of room for everybody to grow and eat.
All right.
But yeah, no, for sure. I think that is happening. I 100% know that it happens. Right. You know, suppliers will tell other suppliers, or manufacturers are scared, and or suppliers, vice versa, to sell to everyone because maybe their big clients said, hey, you can't sell to Joe Blow fans or Joe Smith fans and stuff. And that's just not right. That doesn't make sense.
Right. So you think it's actually what people are telling you think that's actually true?
Yes.
It is happening. It is people are getting shunned or getting frowned upon for selling to certain people. So that's interesting. I'm gonna be asking everybody that comes on the same question when it comes down to that. But here's one that here's one I want to wrap it up for you because I know you said you had some other stuff going on. Here's one question I am going to ask everybody. Hey, if somebody walked into your place with an FWA membership card, would you sell to them?
Oh, all day.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. That's what we're here for. We're here to support the industry, and if you're in FWA and you're part of that team, absolutely, no questions asked.
Awesome. And how do you think the best way? Obviously, I know we've got lionfence.com they can go to if they want to get a little bit more information on there. And I saw you have a great video on there too. I went and watched that not too long ago. Kind of showed some of your yard and a little bit of explanation of what you do. So I think everybody should go out and watch that. Can you think of another way to get a hold of you besides your website? Maybe the email?
Yeah, the general email will be info@lionfence.com, of course. Okay. We have 2 facilities at the moment. We're growing more and more as we speak. So right now we have a facility in Riverside, California, and one in Houston, Texas. So feel free to reach out at info@lionfence.com. Also Sasha, my name at lionfence.com, and Tom, the GM at Houston, will be tom@lionfence.com.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Any final thoughts that you'd like to tell people about yourself or the Lion Fencing and Steel Supply? Anything that you think that's important that we didn't touch on that you'd like to get out there?
Oh, look, I think the main thing from my Lion's perspective is that don't consider yourself average. Just reach out to, follow this link, follow the FWA Supply Group, get the information. Don't not empower yourself. I think that's the biggest lesson for all of us. Lion's biggest lesson was that we're not just going to sit down and take it. We're here for the industry, and it doesn't matter what these bigger guys try to do to us, do all the back channels that they've tried. We're here to stay. So my challenge to fencing companies out there and people that are trying to get into fencing, don't give up. Like, there's a lot of good people out there that are trying. Follow this link, follow the FWA Supply Group, get involved, and because we're here to support you guys, and whatever Lion can do to support anyone, we're in. Even if it's information, we prefer to do business, of course, but we're all in this together, So the more we can empower our members, the more we're going to grow together as a team.
Yeah. And I want to remind everybody, go to FWAsupply.com. You could start actually registering for an account. We haven't approved them all yet, but you will see some of Lion Fencing and Steel Supplies products in there. And hey, I wouldn't be doing my members justice if I didn't ask. Is there any advantages for an FWA member to come buy from you? Is there anything you guys going to be able to come up with? I don't know, throw some extra Tootsie Roll Pops in with the order or something. Anything you guys might be thinking about doing in the future to help out the members?
Yeah, absolutely.
To come to your facility.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're an FWA member, there will obviously be discounts for products, which is just going to be standard. But we'll be doing a lot of draws. We'll do a lot of prizes, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of information. We'll supply a lot of information to FWA members because I think that's where I'm at. Price is important. Don't get me wrong. You'll get discounts as a FWA member for sure. But what you're going to get on top of that is support, questions, where we can help you. We might not be in the area that you're in, but we'll support you to get to the right people and just, work your business,
And I believe that from what I've learned about you, over the last 6 months, 8 months and stuff, that since we've known each other, you've grown to be someone I could count on for things as well, which is nice. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the industry, and thanks for coming on here. To everybody else watching, episode 2 is going to be coming out, and won't be coming out very long from now, because we got a good 30 to 50 people reaching out to FWA Supply Group that are excited about coming on board and getting these materials out to you. My final thoughts on this is just keep going, keep building those companies up. Reach out to people like Sasha and the other people who are going to be joining our group, and see if there's anything you need from us. Reach out to us. If you think of a supplier or a manufacturer you think should be part of the group, do that as well. Stay tuned. We got more coming. Hey, Sasha, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, have a good one.
Thanks, bud.
Wow, everybody, that was incredible. It was great having Sasha on there. Stay tuned. We are going to be releasing another episode at the very least next Tuesday, same time. But we'll probably have some episodes in between as well, because we got so much content to get out there, and just once a week just won't be enough. So again, thanks for tuning in. I don't know when you're watching this. It's going to be live when we post it at that moment. But if it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depends on when you're watching. But we'll stay in touch with you, and see you later. Thanks.